we are looking at worksheet 15. There's a front, back, and then a second worksheet. These won't take you long, but I want to make sure you set them up correctly. So for each of these, we're going to identify the corresponding angles. So highlight that. That's what the front page is focusing on, corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are the ones that lie right on top of each other. Now, these are angle symbols. They're not L's. This is angle 3 in here. This is angle 4. So it looks like they're really stretched out, but they're talking about these interior angles here and down here exterior. So we're only talking about 4 angles. First thing I want you guys to do, if they tell you angle 2 is 72 degrees, find angle 2. I want all the angles labeled. This is going to help us later. So always label what they tell you. Angle 4 is 108 degrees. Okay, now let's find corresponding angles, and it says we need 2 different colors to color code them. So I'm looking at this angle 2 right here, and if I took my parallel line, see they're parallel, here's my transversal. If I took my line and I slid it up, wouldn't this angle in the bottom left be the same as this angle in the bottom left? So these are my corresponding angles. If that is 72 degrees, this is also 72 degrees, so I fill it in there. So we're looking for you to have your shape labeled and this labeled. Now, what's the other set of corresponding angles? Well, angle 4 is in the bottom right of these 4. That's what I'm referencing. These 4 angles, it's in the bottom right, and this is also in the bottom right. So this, if we took this and slid it down, would lay right on top of this. And so this is also 108 degrees. So you should have your things color coded, so you pair up. Here's corresponding, here's corresponding. You're just practicing the same things again and again to sort of lock in that they're corresponding angles and that they're congruent. Okay, flip it over. We're going to do one of each of these, so stick with me. That way you get them right. These are our vertical angles. Okay, so let me remind you, the vertical angles are that crisscross. So here's what we're looking at. Angle 1 is 123 degrees. So 123 degrees. Angle 4 is 57. Now, just to think about this, if I add these two up, what should they add up to? 123 plus 57. Well, 7 and 3 is 10 carried over. That's 180 degrees. Shouldn't they always add up to 180 on a line? So this is a linear pair, and they are supplementary. Okay, so that's not the vertical angle part, though. The vertical angles are here, this angle, and this angle. Those are your vertical angles, or opposite angles. So if that's 57, that's 57. So if you compare these two, if I would take my lines and squish them down, it would look like this, and both angles get smaller where these angles get bigger. So it's always going to work that way. Well, maybe I can use 2 pens. So vertical angles up and down, as my pens go this way, the top and bottom get bigger or they get smaller. And so the crisscross is always equivalent. Okay, so the angle 2 is 57 degrees. And then these are vertical or opposite angles, so this is 123. And I know you can rush through this. I need you to think about it. And you also need to color code and label. Okay, so those are your vertical angles. Ready for the next one? It is, but what you want to do is lock down the idea. Someone said this is pretty easy, but you want to lock down the idea. What's going to happen is we're going to get bigger problems where you have to pull the relationship or remember what it is. So we just want to keep saying these words and looking at the relationship. So it's just sort of really focusing on it. Okay, alternate interior. That means they have to be on the inside of the lines. Alternate interior. And alternate means they alternate the transversal. So here's my transversal. This would be here and here. These are alternate interior angles. So I started showing them. And then these are my other alternate interior angles. Okay, now we got to label this, right? Angle 1 is 101 degrees. So if angle 1's 101 degrees, its alternate interior would also be 101 degrees. Okay, they told us angle 4 was 79. Okay, that makes sense because remember these are called supplementary, these two, because they're same side, or these are a line. this would also be 79 degrees. So this is focusing on alternate interior angles. Then we have one more example to do on the back. Make sure you look at the words in the relationship. Okay, now this is where it looks like it's a little bit harder, but it's not. We're finding all missing angles, so we want these labeled. So they tell me in number 1 that angle 8 is 80 or 95 degrees. Okay, help me out. What else is 95 degrees? This is where we start using the terms. Give me a vertical angle to angle 8. Doesn't this angle go vertical with this one? So isn't that 95 degrees? Angle 6 is 95 degrees. So these little arcs are showing congruent angles. Well, there's lots of relationships here, guys. Angle 6 and angle 4, they're equal because, look, they're alternate what? Alternate interior angles. That's also 95 degrees. Now, we didn't do this on the worksheets, but on the notes, we had alternate what? Exterior. Isn't that on the outside and it alternates the transversal? That's 95 degrees, or aren't these vertical angles? There's more. I feel like an infomercial. This angle bottom right and this angle, aren't those corresponding? So do you see all these relationships? So we've got half the angles filled in. 95 degrees, angle 4 is 95 degrees. We got 6, we got 8. What are the other angles? Well, let's focus on a line. Here is what they give me. They gave me angle 8, so let's focus on this line here. It's a little upside down. Forget everything else. Do you see my line? These two angles have to add up to what? They have to add up to 180. So take 180 degrees. What's 180 minus 95? Find this angle. We're taking 180, taking away 95. What do we get? What do we get? What do you get? I had to think about that because I was going down to 75. All right, now if that's 85, what's that, angle 7? Angle 5 is also, I'm going to put 2 marks here. This is also 85 because they're what? Vertical angles, or any two angles add up to 180. Do you see that? So what's that, angle 5? Give me a reason that angle 1 is also 85 degrees. Can you give me a reason? There's a whole bunch of them. Just pick one. No one can give me one reason? Well, I could use that these form a line, don't they? So same thing, 180 minus 95 gives me that. So that's angle 1. I could have used the idea that this corresponds with this, angle 1 and angle 5, top right-hand corner. I could have used alternate interior or alternate exterior. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop that 85 degrees to here because that is vertical. So do you notice that it's either one angle or the other? All right, so you're going to work on these worksheets and finish them up and let us check them.